In this video, we are going to talk about different sample methods that you can use for collecting information or data when you're doing a statistical analysis. So we're going to define each of these. I'm going to take out a couple of them and give you some examples of the situations. First one is called a random sample. This one would be each member of a population. Oops, member is not spelled with a P, sorry about that. Has an equal chance of being selected. A good example of this would be taking everybody's names, writing them down on a slip of paper and putting them in a hat, and then picking out from that hat. Everybody has an equal chance, you mix it up. That would be considered a random sample. Self-selected is kind of what it talks about. Members of a population can volunteer to be in a sample. My favorite example of that would be like the Dunkin' Donuts receipt. Maybe you don't even look at this, but at the bottom of your Dunkin' Donuts receipt, if you take it, there's usually a code for a survey, and you can get a free donut the next time you get a cup of coffee or any beverage from Dunkin' Donuts if you participate in that survey. That's considered self-selective because you have to choose to go online and fill out that survey. Systematic is when you have a rule that you use to select members of a population. This one's usually easy to pick out. So I'll write out an example here. For example, you pick every other person on a list or something like that. So every other person, every third person or fifth person, but some sort of rule is used to select the people or population. It might not necessarily be people. Stratified and cluster, I'm going to define a little bit better even. I'm going to skip to convenience right now. Convenience is exactly what it says. Only members of a population that are easy to reach are selected. And the stratified and cluster is very similar in the starting point. So we're going to start off, a population is divided into smaller groups for both. I'm going to fit the groups up here so I can write the rest of it a little bit better underneath so it's not too squished in. So then for stratified, you take a sample from each group. And the groups will be divided up by some characteristic to make it easy to do that division for both. And then the cluster, you divide into smaller groups and then pick one or more of the clusters. So with the cluster, after you divide it, you pick an entire group or 2 of the entire groups or 3 and do the entire group from that. And then the stratified, you're picking a sample from each group. So I'm just going to do a quick thing on a separate page real quick. So for stratified versus cluster, these are the 2 that always trick people a little bit. So stratified, you've broken down into your groups. Let's just say there's groups of 4 and different categories. Cluster, you have the same groups. With cluster, maybe I pick the first and the third group, but I pick the entire group after I've broken them down. With stratified, maybe I pick 2 people from each group after I do my group separations. So you're separating them into the different groups, but the way you then select from those groups is different. Okay, so the cluster, think you're doing the entire group or the entire cluster. Stratified, you're selecting a little bit of each. Okay, we'll go back to the beginning notes and we're down at the bottom here. All right, so we're just going to go through a couple quick examples. A bank wants to know whether its drive-through customers are satisfied with the service. Customers receive a code on their receipt that allows them to go online to fill out a survey. This is similar to the one Dunkin' Donuts example that I gave. This would be your self-selected because customers need to volunteer to take the survey. Second one, a school wants to know whether high school teachers prefer before school or after school faculty meetings. 10 teachers with classrooms near the front office are surveyed. That is definitely going to be convenience. Since teachers near the main office are easy to reach. An amphitheater wants to know if Saturday morning concerts would be attended. The amphitheater is divided into 30 different seating areas. It surveys all the members in 5 randomly selected seating areas. So this is what we were just discussing. This is a cluster. And the key is that we're doing all the members. So we divided into groups and we chose entire groups to survey. And then our last one, the manager of an orange juice plant wants to test the quality of the plant's new extra pulp orange juice. She does a taste test of every 20th container of extra pulp orange juice. This is a systematic, since a rule is used. Sorry for my handwriting on this video. Okay, so those are our first set of examples in our first video. Our second video is going to talk about bias in doing these different sample methods.